Let me read to you a passage from the 13th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 54 to 58. It's the Gospel for Friday of the 17th week in Ordinary Time, Year 2. St. Matthew writes, "Coming to his hometown, Jesus began teaching the people in their synagogue, and they were amazed. 'Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers?' they asked. 'Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? And aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon and Jude? Aren't all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things?' And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, 'Only in his hometown and in his own house is a prophet without honor.' And he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith." That's from Matthew chapter 13, verses 54 to 58. And what does it suggest to us? Well, in the history of religions, there are many things the gods are portrayed as doing, but even in the times when such religions were in possession, it was accepted by many that these divine activities were mythical. Those who were more educated, say the Greek philosophers, progressively dismissed popular religion as being the product of the imagination and nothing more. But in the most startling of the beliefs of the Christians, namely that the one only God became a man, the Christian Church insisted that there was nothing mythical about that. It was a hard fact, and it occurred at a precise date and in a very precise location. It is indeed the most startling of assertions which is made of a particular person in history, and some have gone to the length of calling into question the very existence of Jesus Christ, but that is so far beyond any reasonable attitude to historical evidence that it simply does not warrant consideration. More common among agnostics and of course atheists is the denial of the Christian claim about Jesus that he is divine and that he is a Messiah, indeed the Messiah. Now much of this rejection seems very plausible precisely because Jesus was so truly a man. If it was the divine plan that the eternal Word become flesh and dwell among us as man, then necessarily the Son of God made man was exposing himself to the risk of not being accepted for who he was. The fact that his claim to be both Messiah and Son of God was rejected by many, and even most of his contemporaries, and by many from generation to generation ever since, shows how complete was the incarnation. The man Jesus was so obviously a man that many would not accept that he was the Messiah and God. Our gospel passage today is a case in point. Jesus had grown up as a member of a very human family. He had a human mother and many relatives. The small town where he lived for so many years knew him intimately and had seen him at his work with Joseph, his foster father. It was as plain as the day that he was a man. This fact is a tribute to the thoroughgoing character of the incarnation. By taking the step he did for our salvation, God was exposing himself to rejection on the grand scale. He became fully man. And we see the humanity of Jesus Christ acknowledged in the words of the townspeople in our gospel today. We read, "Coming to his hometown, Jesus began teaching the people in their synagogue, and they were amazed. 'Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers?' they asked. 'Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? And aren't his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? Are not all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offence at him. So, as we gaze on the figure of Jesus of Nazareth in our mind's eye, a figure so very and fully human, we ought wonder at the spectacle. The infinite divine being, pure being as he is, and the ongoing source of all other beings, whether visible or invisible, stands before us all as a humble man. He was humble, meek, strong, and totally good. The infinite God had taken to himself a limited, though sinless human nature, and in this way made himself totally accessible and very vulnerable. He could be insulted, rejected, attacked, and beaten to death. In fact, all this did happen to him. And he was God himself, upon whom the entire universe constantly depended. But there is more to this consideration. In the divine plan, our salvation depends on the acceptance of Jesus Christ and his word. Of course, Christ's salvation reaches those who, through no fault of their own, do not know or believe in Jesus Christ, and who yet strive to be good in God's sight by sincerely following their consciences. That granted, nevertheless, faith in Jesus Christ and the acceptance of his claims and teaching is the divinely established path to salvation. The centrality of faith in Jesus is also hinted at in our gospel today that I read. We read that Jesus said to them, "Only in his hometown and in his own house is a prophet without honor." And he did not work many miracles there because of their lack of faith. This difficult act of faith in Jesus is the path to heaven. Yes, it is difficult for ordinary human reason and the ordinary human heart to believe that the man Jesus, so fully man, is the Messiah and the Son of the living God. But it is through believing in his name that we are saved. That is God's plan. What then is the way ahead? It is to ask God for the gift of faith in Jesus, because it is a gift of grace. We shall not do it of ourselves, but in that gift, granted definitively at baptism, we receive a divinely given readiness and ability to see and accept who our Lord really is. Faith then becomes easy. Life's work will then be to nourish that faith and to live by it, following Christ closely.